Internet forums aren't always the best place to find an unbiased viewpoint. You often end up with the extremes of all ends, but that can give you an average, if you will. If you're really looking for help, and if people are genuinely willing to offer advice. Interestingly enough though, some people try to balance it, if you will, or try to point out what is respectful and saying that it might be moral. However, I don't think morality and respect happen to be the same. It's easy to confuse morality and respect.
What is the difference between respect and morality? Google search. Respect is an attitude of valuing and appreciating others, while morality is a system of beliefs about right and wrong that guides behavior. Respect is often a key component of morality, but the two concepts are distinct. Morality provides the foundation for ethical behavior, while respect is a specific way of treating others that aligns with moral principles. Here's a more detailed breakdown. Morality. Definition. Morality refers to a set of personal or social standards for distinguishing between right and wrong, good and bad behavior. Focus. Morality guides an individual's actions and decision-making, helping them determine what is ethical or unethical. Scope. Moral principles can be personal beliefs, societal norms, or philosophical frameworks. Examples. Honesty, fairness, compassion, and not causing harm are examples of moral values. Respect. Definition. Respect is an attitude of valuing and appreciating others, often involving treating them with dignity and consideration. Focus. Respect is about acknowledging the worth and rights of others, even if you disagree with them. Scope. Respect can be shown to individuals, groups, or even things like nature or cultural practices. Examples. Listening attentively to someone, acknowledging their perspective, and treating them with courtesy are all examples of respect. Relationship. Morality provides the framework for ethical behavior, and respect is a crucial element in how we interact with others according to those principles. Showing respect is often seen as a moral obligation, particularly in contexts where individuals are vulnerable or in need of care. Respect can be a manifestation of moral values, such as compassion, empathy, and fairness. In essence, morality provides the what is right and wrong, while respect provides the how we should treat others.
But if I was to do a simple summary of it, I would say the moral is the absolute. The respect is the relative. I will say, however, that people's respect or reverence for something can, in a strange way, be a little bit more amoral, or immoral rather, than they are even suggesting. The classic example is what most Bible denouncers tend to do, which is take Christian teachings by people they say you should not respect, because there's no need to be respectful for people who would preach such things. That's a random one. I'll come back to that in a moment, but a BMW just blasted onto the roundabout. He shouldn't have done that. That's immoral and illegal. He should have given way to me. I suppose the legal thing for me to do would have been to continue on and to hell with the consequences. But it can be foolish if I just continue on and risk crashing the car because he decided to disrespect the rules and disrespect me. But I think there is where we have the rub. There are so many things that will get mixed up in this. What is respectful, what is moral, what is legal, and what is just sensible. I have a feeling all of those can go in completely different directions if we hit the right scenario. So where was I going with that reference to atheists being more respectful to Christian teachings than they might expect? I'm not talking about the moral codes that they say aren't part of Christianity but really are. No. I'm talking about having respect for the teachings of the teachers, and here's the thing, taking them as gospel, or taking them as literally and as seriously as possible, but only following them to the point that you'd swear those were in fact the actual teachings of Christendom, according to them. That is showing more reverence for their teachings than if someone was looking at it in a different way. You could say it is following the laws of Isaac Newton in an attempt to find the planet Vulcan or its similar moons to explain the unusual orbit of Mercury, rather than what Einstein did, which was reinterpret the laws. You could say in a strange way, they're either following one set of strict laws to exclusion, or throwing the entire thing out because they don't see anything working. Remind you of anything? Well, to me, that sounds an awful lot like the biblical fundamentalists who may just not read their textbooks clearly, completely misunderstand evolution, unable to see how that works in the real world, and decide because that doesn't make any sense at all, that doesn't work, it's just being ridiculous, there's no need to have it, let's just get rid of it. And therefore they go fully fundamentalist, focus entirely on the Bible to the exclusion of all science, and that's how you end up with American Christian nationalism. Interestingly enough, Forrest Valkai, I think that's what his handle is, he did a what was it, a meme, a GIF, whatever it's called these days, where he acted out a scene where some people just don't understand evolution, and then biblical fundamentalists show up and just wave the Bible. My response? That's just down to education. His more practical life, in his professional life. Forrest, I think he's running for, I don't know what it is, maybe, probably not senator, but certainly something high up in the Oklahoma administration. Focusing entirely on the education side. I think he's hoping, potentially in the back of his mind, he's hoping that the education will remove theism from the equation, but realistically, I don't see that coming through. I I will agree with him, though, that education is important. And I think that's the main result of why he's experiencing so much theism in his area. However, it is worthwhile considering that things like that will happen on both sides. Removing religion from the curriculum isn't going to remove religious fundamentalists, isn't going to remove religious cults. It's not. It's just going to make them stronger, more focused, because they just don't get the education, and therefore they will focus on what they know. Don't get me wrong, I grew up in a Christian school. Multiple times during singing assemblies, we were singing hymns, we were singing all manner of religious songs. We had a visit from the local vicar every Thursday, and he would always lead us in a prayer after the assembly. But we weren't as religious as many schools name themselves Catholic schools or C of E. No. In fact, some of my favourite assemblies was done by my old nursery teacher, Mrs. Allpress, God rest her soul. And she would tell us about other religious figures from other religions, such as Guru Nanak, such as Guru Gobind Singh, even Ganesh. I think she taught us a little bit about Chinese law as well. I don't remember all of it, but I do vividly remember being taught about all the other religions, or at least all the major religions. We learned about Sikhism, we learned about Hinduism, we learned about Judaism. I think we also had a few lessons on Buddhism as well. I certainly remember being taught the origin of the Buddha. And it's those lessons that stuck out to me the most as religious education. It wasn't just specifically about Christianity. No. Yes, we learned about Christianity, but that was not the primary focus. It wasn't the sole focus. We learned a lot more. And yes, there have been cases of Islamophobia to the point where studies into Islam have been thoroughly discouraged in the curriculum, even here in the UK. But I would say to call any form of religious education indoctrination is a bit like calling any studies into the Second World War anti-German propaganda. I'm sort of hoping that people will learn education is not indoctrination. There was a video that did its rounds on Facebook. I came across it and watched it several times in order to double check everything before I decided to comment. It's basically about someone ranting about how her brother was trying to indoctrinate her son into his religion. I don't remember which particular branch of Christianity it was. They took him to, I think it was a Christingle, whilst she and her husband were away. I think they were just off getting presents and stuff like that. I don't know all the details, and I think most of the details were omitted as well. But she basically assumed that taking a child to one church service and parroting all the phrases like the house of the Lord, the Lord's house, or whatever, implied religious indoctrination. Willing to concede that the brother should have asked the original poster if he was okay taking their son to church, assuming there wasn't anyone else to look after the child or anything like that, which is fairly reasonable, all things considered. But to say that is religious indoctrination is, in my opinion, disingenuous and just refusing to accept anything beyond your own beliefs. In a Reels run I've recently done, Jimmy Jr. of the atheist community of Austin gave a rant about needing to have freedom from religious rules. I can understand that. However, his tone combined with the turns of phrases he used, we don't want that in our schools, we don't want that in our homes, it should be in your homes and your communities, sounded alarmingly like anti-LGBTQ propaganda. We don't respect it, we don't believe it, we don't want it in our schools, we don't want it taught to our children, we don't want it in our homes. You can do it in your homes, but don't let it affect our families. To start bringing this ramble to a close, looking at it in that way, how close are we to misunderstanding the difference between morals and respect, education versus indoctrination, and fighting for freedom and anti-religious propaganda? When just on the other side of the coin could be anti-LGBTQ propaganda. Consider that. Stay safe, and God be with you, my friends.